Making ends meet just to be a musician.
Go off-piste, what is making it for you?
Is that the magic pill?
Once you leave the studio, things get tough.
Where do we go from here? So we're back.
Hey.
We promised you we would come back to you with another episode very fast, and here we are. Obviously, I'm here joined with Adam, co-founder of
Liberty Music
I was going to
PR.
say CEO then, of CEO of Liberty Music PR, and obviously myself, be Adamic. And this is a really important episode, and an episode close to our heart. It's all about kind of the affordability of being an artist and musician, and we totally both know what that feels like, having come from very, very humble beginnings. I mean, when I met you, you were an artist, musician, struggling musician, living on floors of other people's rooms, mattress on the floor, whatever, making ends meet just to be a musician, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough, and we know that. So we're hoping in this episode we can give you some advice and solutions on how to navigate that whole area.
Well, we've worked with many artists since we started Liberty. We've seen many different situations, obviously.
Yeah.
Artists from singing songs at the back of their van to artists being signed to major labels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Artists that have made it, artists that are still working on, I mean, whatever made it means to you as an artist.
Yeah.
Still working on their craft, artists that are trending now and going viral. There's a variety of different setups and situations.
There is, yeah, there absolutely is.
The one thing I can take away from all of it is persistence and like sticking at it.
Yeah, that is one of the, so amongst some of our friends actually, who've kind of, made it, they are the ones that literally keep putting out, they keep releasing, and they're consistent.
Yeah. And I think we've come to redefine what making it is, and it obviously depends on the person.
Yes.
I think we need to be clear on that if you're an artist, to understand what is making it for you. Is it literally just being able to pay all of your bills with your art? And I think that's a big goal for a lot of artists these days. And I think if we want to be like Taylor Swift or Bieber or whatever it is, right? And that's your version of making it, okay, but there's a hell of a hill to climb.
Yeah,
and you need to know what you're up against. I'm not saying don't aim for the stars, but also don't be disappointed at the wins that you have along the way, because comparing your step 1 to their step 58 is not a good idea. You want to compare your step 1 to someone who's similar position to you, and to keep going on that journey of growing your career. So it is true, and I think I sort of read in the papers, or in papers online, whatever you want to call it, about some musicians who are literally having to cancel gigs and tours, and these are artists that are signed, maybe with quite big booking agents, the ones that we all know, where they've literally had to say, can't afford it. And I can't remember, there was quite a big musician recently that got given a support slot for a massive artist, and apparently they were getting paid like £200 a show, and these were like supporting even like, I think they were kind of semi-big stadiums around the world, and they had to say can't do it. Apparently they were kicking themselves because it was such a massive opportunity, but once they'd added up all the costs that were included, there was quite a big gap between each gig, so they had to like stay in a hotel for that gap instead of flying back every time. And that's put a massive grey, dark kind of shadow over the world of touring, because a lot of mid-sized artists are saying we can't do it anymore, and let alone being small, So where do we go from here? Yeah, I think the industry's changed in the sense that the artists aren't getting supported who aren't doing huge numbers yet, because the way the major labels work a lot of the time, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like they use the data to to work out how much they want to invest. Yeah. So if you've got a small fan base, but it's not quite there yet. Yeah. They're not going to invest that much money in you, so you're going to be putting in your own money, which makes it even tougher, obviously. Yeah.
How do you do? I mean, what do you do? Like, so say for example, if I'm a band and there's 4 of us, and inevitably, as we know, there's only ever 1 or 2 that put most of the money into these sort of projects. Are you creating kind of a sort of a situation for yourself where you're going to be losing money eventually?
Yeah, it is tough, and I empathise a lot with this because, it's not one of the easiest industry to break into, as we know. But you can... but
you've done some big German tours, and you can recoup some of the costs, can't you, from the merch?
It depends. Like, go where you're treated best.
Right.
find
Not UK.
good.
Sorry,
find
guys.
fans and audiences that are going to look after you and you're going to look after them. Germany's very good for that. There's obviously other European countries that are really supportive as well, but finding that place where that can really nurture your talent. I think also focusing on your community, your local fans and the ones that are nearest to you. You don't have to travel so far to get to them. You know,
Do you mean like just like your local town?
Yeah, they're on your doorstep. So
but what if you're bored of doing the local?
They're going to help fund you, right? So they're going to build your finances up to a point where you can then break out of your hometown and start to do bigger and bigger circles outwards.
Yeah.
There's that whole thing about working on a concentric circle. So you expand slowly outwards. So rather than go, I'm going to conquer America after you haven't even conquered your local town, I think that's a bit crazy. So
even if, what if you're given the opportunity, say if, you know, a friend of a friend of a friend is in a fairly big band and they've said, do you want to come on our US tour with us, and you haven't quite even conquered the UK, would you say that strategically that's not a good decision?
Yeah.
Or would you say, go along and do it for the ride?
No, I think you need to be strategic with it.
Right.
Because otherwise you could burn out your team, your resources, your time, and feel, you know, a bit deflated by it. I think, you know, you find the most effective way to reach your fans and go where you're treated best. Build up your community, build up your team.
Where are we treated best? I mean, you've obviously experienced traveling, touring a lot of Europe. Where is nicest, would you say?
You're probably treated best in your own studio. Once you leave the studio, things get tough. But that's not to dissuade anyone from going out and playing shows. You're probably your hometown, like busking, whatever it is. Like often going off the beaten track is where you're probably treated best. For example, we're working with a lot of brands at the moment who are collaborating with artists and very supportive of artists in terms of like funding for the gig, for the show. They even offer them free product, endorsement, sharing content on their socials, and like vice versa. So I think I want to support the toilet circuit venues because they're so instrumental in so many artists, and there's like the legacy behind a lot of artists.
A lot of them are closing down as well, which is a real shame.
But also there's an over saturation on those venues. There's so many artists pushing and competing and fighting to get an audience, and oftentimes they can get looked over. But if you go off-piste, you're going to probably spark a bit more attention and get more interest.
That is true, actually, because obviously, you know, when we go to another country or another country, a band comes to us and you're like, oh, who are these people or something. Sometimes, you know, it can be quite exotic, can't it, having someone a bit different. And I think you can pick up fans from other cities and towns, and I think sometimes you be surprised, you might end, because sometimes you could be in quite an oversaturated, like we live in Brighton and it's quite an oversaturated town. There's always new bands and music happening every single night, whereas if you came from kind of a sleepy small town in Italy and actually sails this amazing kind of electropop band and from the UK, you might actually be treated like a royalty, and actually you've gained 30 amazing, smiley, friendly faces that literally will follow you now on social media and comment and like and everything. So I think there is something to be said for getting out of your town. Yeah. I do. I think sometimes it can be a bit exhausting playing Green Door and
depends. It's worth it, but just do it with caution.
But it's expensive. Look,
because it is expensive.
It ain't cheap. Packing up all your gear, putting it on an EasyJet flight.
Obviously you can use stats and data as well. Spotify, it will tell you where your fan base is at, and get yourself out there.
That's really good insight, actually.
According to the town or city where you're getting a lot of popularity, definitely you can build on that.
Yeah.
I think, go where you're treated best. Go where your fans are using the data that you can get hold of.
Yeah.
Go off-piste. They don't always do the same old venues that everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
So I think it's being quite strategic about your where to put your resources.
Yeah.
Not just burning them up on something that looks fabulous to everyone.
And where do you get funding from? So say, for example, as a musician, you've decided you want to record an album and, you want to use a really good producer at Abbey Road or, I don't know, a master at Metropolis or whatever. Where does one get the money from? Is it literally go and get a part-time job? Can you be a full-time musician and not be earning anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hustle to begin with. It's the
hard.
hardest is right at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So you're going to be doing part-time jobs. You're going to be maybe doing things you don't want to be doing.
Side hustling's good.
Side
so
hustling.
having, you could be an accountant by day and a sort of a musician by night, basically. We've both done that, haven't we? We've sort of straddled the two. You used to be working in a completely different industry with music on the side. Same for me. I had a 9 to 5 in the corporate world, and I was sort of doing my music thing in the weekends, evenings, and I think you can be quite smart and do the two.
Yeah.
I think it's, if you want to go all in, that is very commendable.
And over time, you will get to that point of going all in. You just got to burn the midnight oil, just keep going and work those extra hours.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, if it's your passion, it's your lifelong dream to do that, you will do it, what it takes. Right?
Yeah. Can music be a hobby for some, you think?
Oh, it can be, yeah, of course. But I think if you're serious and you want to you have to put in what the serious musicians are doing, and a lot of the time it's hard to tell them that because everyone's looking for a quick win on TikTok or a quick win on Spotify. But yeah, I think it's just putting in that the hustle and caring about your fans, caring about three fans.
Yeah, and also
like if you had a video and three people watched it. I know it sounds crazy, but look, like reach out to them and say, hey, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. What do you think? So it's like you start small and build. I think going for the start, shooting for the stars straight from the get is destined to not work.
Absolutely. And let's say you're an artist, say you're a band, or you're thinking of forming a band with some buddies in your local town, and you've got, your mum and dad and your family around you all rooting for you and stuff like that. You could even start Patreon. For people that don't know what that is, it's literally where some people can just pay a little bit each month towards your music fund. And it's almost a nice way of sort of doing that without going, can you lend me 100 quid please for this music video I'm trying to film? And honestly, you'd be surprised at how many of the slightly older generation, our mums, dads, grandparents and stuff, that actually want to give a little bit back to the creative industry. So it could be, all it takes is you've got 100 people or 1,000 people giving you, £100? Yeah. Suddenly you've got a massive pot of cash.
Yeah, and giving them exclusive access to those fans, those Patreons, to certain content that you're creating.
Yeah.
Maybe they get privy to certain stuff, like certain merch or backstage, whatever it is. You know, early gig tickets, all that kind of stuff is
cool merch. Like you could even do like alternative sleeves for like vinyl you've just pressed or something. Personalised sort of gear and that, and I think that's really nice.
There's so loads of ways to involve them, and and a lot people love. There's so many fans out there that want to have an exclusive access to something before it becomes huge.
Definitely. Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so much you can do. And would you discourage anyone from going down this route of like, say if you're like, I don't know, 40 or 50, you have a bit of a midlife crisis and you're like, I want to be a musician, I'm going to quit everything and just
You're never too old.
You're never too old,
I mean, look, if you're living, you're breathing, create. It's the pleasure of it, right? Otherwise you'll never be happy. I mean, the amount of people that come and work at Liberty and say, oh, this has been my lifelong passion, or people that come and interview and all they've ever wanted. We've had really senior directors coming from massive companies, haven't we, saying, I've only ever wanted to work in the music industry. So music is such an area of passion and excitement and happiness. And I think if you stick with it, I think something you'll come through, won't you? Yeah.
And I think that in terms of funding as well, like just to give some friendly advice and stuff, I think there's lots of funding pots out there. There's the Arts Council. There's actually like lots of regional, localised funds for people of different, different kind of diversity kind of pots and things, isn't there? There's lots of stuff going on there. So maybe look into all of that, see what you can tap into. My advice as well, and I think this, is actually forge a really good relationship with the producer. And actually, they might probably just give you mates rates, because if you work with them for a long, long time, they'll just stick with you, won't they? Yeah. You've done one album with them, they'll probably stay with you for your journey. Yeah. And as long as you kind of like credit them and all of that kind of stuff, and then I mean, there is there's money to be made in music, and we know that. And
it's always good to, if you're struggling to get studio time at full rate, you should always use the night time rate. So there's plenty of studios out there that offer a lower rate for working through the night.
That's a really good point, actually. So if you're like, say if you're a shift worker, you work in the local hospital, and actually you knock off at like 2 or 3 in the morning, you could literally go straight to the studio and start recording. Not that you've got enough going on as it is, but there's all of that. And I think, and also, for example, you could look at syncing your music, getting a publishing deal. If you seem to be making music that's quite mainstream, poppy, whatever, you could even start to think about, actually, maybe I can make a bit of money through that. You do a lot of that, don't you?
We're also going to be offering free studio time to artists that are coming to work with us very soon. So,
good point, actually.
So reach out and DM us about that.
Liberty, we want to give back, and we always do our best to do whatever we can, don't we?
Send us your submissions. We'll listen to it. We'll get back to you. Our team will get back to you. But we have free writing rehearsal studios with lots of great vintage equipment and nice ways to record. So feel free to DM us after this.
Yeah, definitely. And then just a final point on this subject. What about a band or artist that are like, I just need to get signed. Once I get signed, the label will sort it all out financially for us. Is that the magic pill?
Never is. That's the thing. You want to aim for a good deal. I mean, I know it sounds obvious, but it's so alluring to an artist who's a little bit naive.
Is it a deal, or is it a good deal, bad deal?
Well, I mean, they get so razzled by the excitement of being in the music industry. Oh my God, I got signed, I got a record deal. We know that things have changed quite considerably since.
Yeah. And
things are also equally just as bad as well. But you want to negotiate a good deal. I think the best way to do that is to build your own fan base first. Yeah. Because you've got something to negotiate with.
That's so true.
Not just a nice track or a great, potential hit. I think it's so important to have that leverage and that ability to strike up a good deal, one that favors you long term, one that you can get out of if you need to. Yeah. So I think,
it's not a magic pill. I think that actually, someone likened it to the most expensive loan that you'll ever take out. If you go with a sort of major label deal. I think we all think that, major label is going to be the key to success. It's going to unlock this opportunity. But what little do you know that you're paying quite a high rate for that particular investment that they're putting in. They're not giving it to you for free. They want that back. Even if you don't make it, they're taking that money back off you, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the likelihood is they'll drop you after a year if it doesn't go right.
Yeah, so just be wary of things like that. Obviously, focus on you and your fans and your community, and you won't go wrong. The labels will offer you. They'll be begging to work with you because the stats will come rolling in.
You'll get a more favourable kind of deal percentage.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for them, it's less risk because if you don't have a fan base yet, it's more risk. So then they're going to spend less on you anyway, and so you're going to have to do more of the marketing work yourself. Whereas if you have a fan base, it's low risk for them. They can put money into you and then just take you that step further. So I think that's really what.
Good point to be made. And I think also, with the rise of the independents, and obviously we were at the Brits last month now, and we saw the likes of, we witnessed Ray picking up so many awards and actually breaking free from the major label, the cling,
the paradigm,
the claws of the major labels. And actually people like Dua Lipa's people and team were like, she swept the board of the awards, didn't she? And so it just goes to show that, actually it's not that good.
Yeah, I mean, look at the power of that, the independence now. It's incredible. But artists are proud to say I am independent, and I'm doing this off the back of my own team, my own way. And they're getting smarter as well. They know how to monetize, how to build, how to be an entrepreneur as well as an artist. And I think that's probably where things are going. And labels will obviously be there to support that rather than to dictate.
Definitely, you don't need a label. I think you can just get a really good distro. Most distros now, if you're pretty successful, they'll give you an advance on future or back catalogue. If you need that marketing help, because obviously we all do sometimes. Then you've still got 100% of your own independence, because there's nothing worse than a label owning, the rights to the next couple of albums that imagine that, having to write an album for a sort of under the scrutiny.
Look, the fans are in control now.
Yes.
It's not the labels. It's not there's no third party that's deciding what your future is other than your fans. So
That's very
they're
true.
the ones in control. Look after them, and you can't go wrong.
Yeah. Thank you
All right.
for listening to this episode.